God says, don't reject what I'm sending you. Your breakthrough is already on the way. God's message for you today. My child, I need you to hear something today that you may not be ready to receive. And I almost stayed quiet. I almost let you keep walking the way you've been walking because I know how tired you are and I never want to add weight to a heart that is already carrying too much. But I love you too much to stay silent. So I'm going to say it anyway. There is something I have been sending your way. Something real. Something I shaped with my own hands long before you ever asked for it. Something prepared, set apart, marked with your name. And yet day after day you have been pushing it away. Not out of rebellion, not out of stubbornness, not because there is something wrong with you. You have been pushing it away out of fear, out of a quiet aching belief that you don't deserve the very thing I'm carrying toward you. I know that belief. I know where it was born. I know the night it first whispered to you, and I know how many times since then you have agreed with it without even realizing you were agreeing. And I am not here to scold you for it. I am here to undo it. Maybe you have been waiting so long that the waiting itself has quietly become who you are. You no longer say, I am waiting for something. You have started to say, deep down where you barely hear yourself, I am just someone who waits. This is simply my life now. Maybe the silence has stretched across so many seasons that you have stopped believing an answer is still coming. Maybe disappointment has been such a faithful teacher that it taught you the one lesson I never wanted you to learn, that it is safer not to hope at all. Because hoping, you discovered, hurts more than simply enduring. I have watched you make peace with less. I have watched you lower your expectations. Not because your dreams died, but because you got tired of burying them. So you stopped digging the grave. You just left them lying in the open, half alive, and you learned to look away. And I know how it started. It started with a single disappointment that you survived, and then another, and another. And somewhere along the way, your heart did a very human thing, a very understandable thing. It decided that the safest way to live was to never want too much again, to want quietly, to want carefully, to keep your dreams small enough that, if they fell, they wouldn't break anything important on the way down. You convinced yourself this was strength. You called it being realistic. But my beloved child, I have seen the cost of it. I have seen how much smaller your world has become in order to keep your heart from being hurt again. And I did not create you to live in a world that small. You have been so strong for so long. You have been the one who holds everyone else together, the one who does not get to fall apart, the one who carries the family, carries the team, carries the worry, carries the weight that no one else even knows is there. And nobody ever asks how you are really doing, because you have trained them all to believe that you are fine, but you are not fine. You are tired in a place that sleep cannot reach, and I am the only one who can see all the way down to that place. So let me speak to it now. But my beloved child, hear me now. I am not speaking to you today to condemn your doubt. Your doubt does not offend me. Your weariness does not push me away. I am not standing at a distance, disappointed in how long it took you to believe again. I am speaking to you today because your breakthrough, the very thing your heart has quietly ached for in the dark, the thing you stopped naming out loud because naming it hurt, is already moving. It is already on the way. The wheels are already turning in places your eyes cannot see. And I need one thing from you. I need you not to close the door before it arrives. Stay with me. Don't move. Don't scroll past this moment as if it were an accident, because it is not an accident, and you know that somewhere inside you already. This message found you. You did not find it. I arranged for these words to reach your ears on this exact day, at this exact hour, in the middle of this exact season of your life, because there is something I have to say to you that could not wait another week. You may not believe that yet. You may be thinking that this is just another message, just another voice, just another stranger telling you to keep hoping, when hoping is the very thing that has worn you out. And I am not going to argue with your doubt. I am simply going to ask you to give me the next several minutes. That is all. Not your whole heart yet. Just a little while. Because I am going to tell you something by the end of this that I do not think you have ever quite understood about me, and about the way I have been moving in your life this entire time, even in the years when you were most certain that I had gone quiet on you. So before you do anything else, let me sit with you a while. Let me tell you what I have seen. Let me tell you what I am doing, and let me tell you why what looks like an ending in your life is actually a beginning you are not yet able to recognize. I want you to understand something about the way I work, because if you don't understand it, you will keep missing me. Not because I am hiding, but because I rarely send what you expect, and I rarely arrive through the door you have been watching. That, my beloved child, is where the rejection begins. Not because you ever meant to reject me. You would never do that on purpose. But because what I sent did not look the way you imagined it would look. You had a picture in your mind of how the answer was supposed to come. You decided what rescue should feel like, what an open door should sound like, what my voice should be loud enough to be. And so, when I came in a form you didn't recognize, you let me pass right by. Let me tell you what I have seen. I have seen the nights you sat alone, long after the rest of the house went quiet, holding a cup of something that had already gone cold in your hands. I have seen you type prayers into your phone in the dark and then delete them before you ever sent them anywhere, because you were afraid that even saying them out loud would jinx the little bit of hope you had left. I have seen you smile in front of people all day, carry the conversations, hold the room together, be the strong one, the dependable one, the one who always seems fine. And then I have watched you walk back into your home in the evening and feel your whole body get heavier, because the weight you set down in front of others, you picked right back up the moment the door closed behind you. I have seen you check your phone, waiting for a message that didn't come. I have seen you rehearse conversations with people who left, saying the things you never got to say. I have seen you stand in front of the mirror and search your own face for evidence that you are doing better than you feel, and find none, and decide to keep going anyway. I have seen you keep promises to everyone but yourself. I have seen you give and give and give until there was nothing left, and then reach down past empty and give some more, and wonder, late at night, who would ever do that for you. I saw all of it. Not a moment of it escaped me. You were never performing your life to an empty theater, my child. There was someone in the seats the entire time, watching with tears in his eyes, loving you in the very places you felt most unseen. You told yourself something in those nights. You said, if God were really answering me, it wouldn't feel this quiet. You looked at the silence, and you read it as absence. You read my stillness as my distance. You assumed that because you didn't hear thunder, I wasn't there. I have heard you bargain with me in the dark, too. I have heard you say, just give me a sign. Just one. Just something so I know you're listening. And then I sent it small, gentle, easy to dismiss, and your pain was too loud in that moment to recognize my answer when it came. So you kept asking for the sign that had already been given. You kept knocking on a door I had already opened. Not because you were foolish, because you were hurting, and hurting people listen for the wrong things. They listen for the dramatic rescue, and they miss the quiet hand already resting on their shoulder. But my child, listen to me. Quiet is not the same as absent. The two have never been the same. There was a man I loved, a prophet named Elijah, who once stood on a mountain waiting for me to pass by, and a great and powerful wind came and tore the mountains apart, but I was not in the wind. And after the wind there was an earthquake, but I was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a fire, but I was not in the fire. And then, after all of that noise, after all of that drama, after everything that looked like it should have been the place where God would surely be there, came a gentle whisper, a still, small voice. And that, my child, that was where I was. So I ask you tenderly, if you have spent these years waiting for thunder, is it possible you have missed every whisper I have already sent? Picture someone standing at the back of a house. They are facing the back door. They have decided, for reasons that made sense to them at the time, that this is where their answer will arrive. So they wait there, faithfully. Day after day they stand at that back door, watching, hoping, refusing to leave their post. And I admire their faithfulness. I do. But the whole time they are standing there, I have been knocking at the front. Steadily, patiently, and every day they keep their eyes fixed on the back door. They miss me by only a few steps. Not by miles, not by years. By a few steps and a single turn of the head. That is how close you have been, my beloved child. That is how near the thing you have been begging me for actually is. You have not been failing. You have simply been facing the wrong direction. And here is the tenderness in it, the part that should make you weep with relief instead of frustration. The distance between you and your answer was never as great as your despair told you it was. Your despair measured it in years. I measure it in steps. Your fear said it would take a miracle the size of a mountain moving. But all it required was for you to lift your eyes from the door you had been staring at and notice that I had been standing somewhere else the whole time, patient, unhurried, never once leaving my post at the front of the house. I did not grow tired of knocking. I do not grow tired. I have all the time in the world, and I have spent a great deal of it waiting for you to turn around, so I am not rebuking you today. Hear that. This is not a rebuke. This is an invitation. I am simply, gently, lovingly asking you to do one thing. Turn around. Stop defending the door you chose. Stop insisting that the answer has to come the way you decided it would. Just turn. Even a little. Even just enough to catch a glimpse of where I have actually been. Because the moment you turn, you are going to see that the wait was never as empty as it felt, and the silence was never as final as you feared. Here is something I want to engrave on the inside of your heart today, somewhere deep enough that disappointment can never scrape it off again. I did not begin preparing your breakthrough the moment you started praying for it. My child, I began preparing it long before you ever knew you would need it. Before the loss, before the heartbreak, before the diagnosis, the phone call, the empty chair, the door that closed. While you were still asleep to what was coming, I was already at work on the answer. Your prayer did not start the process. Your prayer simply caught up to a process I had already begun. Let me remember someone to you, not teach you about him. Remember him with you, the way you remember someone you have loved. There was a young man I once loved deeply. He was a dreamer, and his dreams seemed far too large for his small shoulders. They didn't fit him yet. They embarrassed the people around him. They made him a target. And then one day, the very people who should have protected him most, his own family, his own blood, turned on him and handed him over to strangers. They sold him. They let him be carried off to a foreign land, far from everything he knew, and then they went home and pretended he had died. If you had stood in that field on that day and watched it happen, you would have shaken your head and said the only thing that seemed honest. You would have said, God has forgotten this boy. God has abandoned him. Whatever those dreams were, they're over now. But my child, I had not forgotten him for a single moment. Not one. What looked to every human eye like the destruction of his future was actually the road that led him directly into it. The pit was not the end of the dream. The pit was the first mile of the journey toward the dream. The betrayal that should have buried him was the very thing that carried him to the place where, years later, he would have the power to save the lives of thousands, including the lives of the very brothers who threw him away. I was not late for that young man. I was never late. And hear me carefully now, because I want you to take this personally. I am not late for you either. You see, the years that young man spent as a servant, and later the years he spent forgotten in a prison for something he did not even do, were not wasted years. They were not detours. They were the curriculum. In that servant's house, he learned how to manage and to lead. In that prison, he learned how to wait without becoming bitter, how to keep his integrity when no one was watching, how to interpret the dreams of others while still believing in his own. By the time I lifted him to the second highest position in the most powerful nation on earth, he was ready. Not just gifted. Ready. The boy who had been thrown in a pit could not have ruled, but the man the pit had shaped, he could. And he did. And through him I saved nations from famine. The thing you have been calling a delay, I have been calling preparation. The season you named abandonment, I have been using to soften a heart that had grown hard from being hurt, to deepen roots that were too shallow to hold the weight of what I want to give you, to slowly and carefully build someone who can actually carry the blessing without being crushed by it, because you must understand this. There is a kind of timing in my love that human hearts struggle to accept. A fruit tree does not give fruit the year it is planted. It cannot. And the reason is not that the tree is broken. The reason is not that the farmer forgot to plant it correctly, or walked away, or stopped caring. The reason a young tree gives no fruit is that fruit which comes too soon comes bitter. It comes small and hard and sour, and it does no one any good. So the tree spends its first seasons doing something invisible, It spends them sending roots down into the dark, into the cold, into the unseen places no one ever praises, building a foundation strong enough to one day hold the weight of a harvest. And I do not give my children bitter fruit. I love you too much to hand you something before you are ready to hold it, because a gift given too early does not bless a person, it breaks them. I have watched it break people, my child. I have watched men and women receive the very thing they begged for before the roots were deep enough to hold it, and I have watched it crush them. The marriage that came before the healing, the money that came before the wisdom to steward it, the platform that came before the character to carry it. The thing they thought was the answer became the thing that undid them, because it arrived in a soul not yet strong enough to bear its weight. So when I make you wait, I am not withholding the harvest out of cruelty. I am building the trunk that will hold the branches, that will hold the fruit. Every season of waiting is another ring of strength forming in the unseen wood of who you are becoming. So while you were standing at that door, frustrated that nothing was happening, something was happening. It was happening underground, where you couldn't see it. It was happening in your character, in your patience, in your capacity to love and to lead and to hold and to wait. The harvest was being made possible by a season that felt, to you, like nothing but waiting. And what I have prepared for you, my beloved child, has your name written on it. It cannot be given to anyone else. It is not interchangeable. It will not be handed to the next person in line because you took too long. It will not expire. It will not spoil. It will not be quietly canceled because you doubted along the way. It is being held by my own faithfulness, guarded by my own hand until the very moment your soul is ready to receive it without being destroyed by it. There is no rival who can take what I set aside for you. There is no clock that can run out on a promise I have spoken. There is no version of being too far gone that puts you beyond what I have reserved. I have written your name on it, and I do not unwrite the names I write. The waiting was never punishment. The waiting was the gift, growing into the size you would one day need it to be. Now I want to ask you something, and I want to ask it gently, because I know I am about to touch a place that still aches. How many of the things you have mourned as losses were actually me redirecting you? How many of the doors that slammed in your face, that left you standing on the other side feeling rejected and worthless and overlooked, how many of those doors, had you walked through them, would have led you somewhere you were not yet strong enough to survive? I know there are rejections you are still carrying. I see them. The relationship that ended without any real explanation, that left you replaying every conversation trying to find the moment it went wrong. The opportunity that slipped through your hands just when you finally let yourself believe it was yours. The phone that didn't ring. The yes that turned into a no. The prayers you eventually stopped praying, not because you stopped believing in me, but because the silence had lasted so long that praying began to feel like talking to an empty room, and you couldn't bear the echo anymore. I am not here to wave those things away with easy words. I will not insult your pain by pretending it was small. I am not the kind of God who rushes a grieving heart toward a happy ending. I am here to sit with you in it, to stay in the room, and from that place, beside you, I want to tell you what I saw from where I was standing the whole time. What you called failure, I called protection. What you named rejection, I named redirection. What felt to you like my silence was actually me working in a language your pain was not yet quiet enough to hear. The answer was being spoken the entire time. But grief is loud, my child, and fear is loud, and the voice of old disappointment is loud. And I do not shout over the noise in your soul. I wait for a quiet I can speak into. I need you to consider something you may have never let yourself consider. What if some of the doors that closed on you were the most merciful things I ever did? What if the person who left was a road that led off a cliff you could not see? What if the job you did not get would have consumed the years you were meant to spend somewhere else entirely? What if the thing you have spent so long grieving as the great loss of your life was actually the moment I stepped in and turned you, by a few quiet degrees, away from a destruction you would never have survived? You do not have eyes to see the lives you did not live, but I do. And from where I stand, some of the answers you are still angry I did not give you were the kindest no's I have ever spoken. Let me remember another life to you. There was a young woman, generations ago, who was placed into circumstances she never chose. She was an orphan, raised by a relative, living as a stranger in a kingdom that was not her own. And then, through a series of events that no one could have planned and no one could have wanted, she was taken from her ordinary life and thrust into the palace of a king. Every turn of her story looked, from the outside, like chaos, like a girl being swept along by forces far bigger than herself. If you had followed her life day by day, you would have called it a series of accidents. Bad luck folded into stranger luck, but every single one of those unexpected turns was placing her exactly where she needed to be, at exactly the right moment, to do the one thing that only she could do. When a wicked plan rose up that would have destroyed her entire people, she was already inside the palace. She was already positioned. She was already, as I had whispered to her through a faithful voice, in the kingdom for such a time as this. The chaos was never chaos. The chaos was placement. My child, the confusion in your life right now is not disorder. It is choreography. Every step that feels random is a step being measured by a hand you cannot see. You are being moved. You are being positioned. And one day you will look back and realize that the season that made the least sense was the season that made everything else possible. You will look back at the move you didn't want to make and see that it placed you next to the person who would change your life. You will look back at the delay that frustrated you and see that it kept you from being somewhere you should never have been. You will look back at the thing that humbled you and see that it was the only thing that could have prepared you to handle what came next without losing yourself. What feels like being tossed around by chance is, from where I stand, a careful arrangement of every piece, so that when the moment comes, you're such a time as this moment, you are already exactly where you need to be to walk into it. Think of a weaver at her loom. If you walk behind her and look at the back of the tapestry she is making, all you will see is a confusion of threads. Knots and crossings and loose ends, dark threads tangled into bright ones, no pattern, no beauty, no sense to any of it. From the back, it looks like a mistake. From the back, it looks like the work of someone who has no idea what they're doing. But the weaver is not standing where you are standing. The weaver is on the other side. And from the front, every single thread, including the darkest ones, including the ones that look like errors, including the black threads you would have torn out if it had been up to you, every single thread is exactly where it belongs. The dark threads are not flaws in the picture. The dark threads are what give the picture its depth. Without them, there would be no image at all. You have been looking at the back of your life, my beloved child. You have been judging the whole tapestry by the tangle you can see, and I am asking you to trust the weaver with the threads whose purpose you cannot yet make out. I know that is a hard thing to ask of someone who has been hurt by trusting before. Trust is expensive for you now. It costs more than it used to, because you have handed it to people and to circumstances that did not handle it gently, and you swore you would be more careful with it from now on. I understand that, but I am not asking you to trust the thread. I am not asking you to trust the people who tangled it or the circumstances that knotted it. I am asking you to trust the hands holding the needle. There is a difference. You do not have to understand the pattern in order to trust the one who is weaving it. You only have to believe that the one weaving it loves you and means you good and has never once let a single dark thread into the design without a purpose for it. Will you do that? Will you trust me with the parts of your story you do not understand? Not all at once. Not perfectly. Just enough to keep your hands open one more day. Just enough to let me keep weaving. Before I go any further, I want to stop. I want to slow down because the next part of what I have to say is so specific to you that I don't want you to miss it by rushing. I want to ask you something and I want you to answer honestly. Not for me, I already know. Answer it for yourself. Because you need to hear your own heart say it. Is there something in your life right now that you have already given up on? Something you once believed I sent you, a person, a calling, a dream, a door, a relationship, a possibility, but fear or disappointment slowly convinced you to push away? Something you used to pray about with your whole chest, and now you don't mention anymore, not even to me, because you've quietly decided it's not going to happen? Don't rush past this. Let it come to the surface. Let yourself name it, even if your throat tightens when you do. Maybe it is a dream you used to talk about with light in your eyes, and somewhere along the way you stopped mentioning it because the gap between where you are and where that dream lives became too painful to look at. Maybe it is a relationship you have written off, A reconciliation you decided was impossible. A person you have stopped praying for because hoping for them hurt too much. Maybe it is your own healing your body, your mind, the heaviness you carry, and you have quietly made peace with the idea that this is just how it will be from now on. Maybe it is a calling, a purpose, a sense that you were made for something more, that you buried under the word unrealistic because believing in it felt like setting yourself up to be a fool. Whatever it is, do not push it back down. Let it sit in your open hand for just a moment, in front of me. Hold that thing in your mind. Keep it right there, because everything I am about to say next, my child, is for that exact thing. I did not bring it up by accident. I brought it up because I have something to say about it, and I need you listening with your whole heart when I do. My child, breakthroughs rarely arrive with a loud announcement. They almost never come the way you've seen them come in stories, with a dramatic moment where the music swells and suddenly everything is clear and obvious and undeniable. That is not usually how I move. More often, the breakthrough comes quietly. It comes wrapped in ordinary things, hidden inside ordinary moments, disguised as something so small you could walk right past it. And do you know who misses it? The people who were only watching for something extraordinary. The ones who decided in advance that the answer had to be huge, had to be obvious, had to be impossible to miss. They were watching the sky and the fireworks, and so they never noticed the small, steady light that was already burning right in front of them. I have a habit, my child, of arriving in disguise. I came into this world not in a palace, but in a feeding trough, in a forgotten town, to a young woman no one important had ever heard of. The whole world was waiting for a king to arrive with armies and gold, and I arrived as a baby, wrapped in cloth, breathing in the cold of a borrowed stable. The very people who had studied the prophecies their whole lives walked right past me, because I did not match the picture they had drawn. I have always come this way, small, quiet, easy to overlook by those who insist on grandeur. So when I tell you that your breakthrough may be arriving in something ordinary, I am telling you about the way I have always moved. Do not despise the small beginning. Do not wait for the version of the answer that is loud enough to impress the people who doubted you. I am rarely in the loud thing. I am almost always in the small one. So let me teach you how to recognize me. Let me tell you what a breakthrough actually looks like when I am the one sending it, because you may be in the middle of one right now and not even know it. Sometimes a breakthrough looks like a door closing behind you. In the moment, it feels like loss. It feels like another rejection, another disappointment to add to the pile. You stand there in front of the closed door and you ask me why I keep taking things away from you. But my child, sometimes that closing door is not me taking something from you. Sometimes it is me removing the very thing that was keeping you from walking forward. You called it a closed door. I called it a cleared path. You will not always be able to tell the difference in the moment, but trust that I can. Sometimes a breakthrough looks like a person walking into your life and saying exactly the right thing at exactly the right time. A word that lands in the precise spot where you were broken. A stranger's kindness that arrives on the very day you had decided no one cared. You might shrug it off as coincidence, but I want you to know that I do not work in coincidences. That person was not an accident. That person was an appointment. I scheduled them into your life before either of you woke up that morning. Sometimes a breakthrough looks like a sudden, unexplainable peace settling over something that has tormented you for years. The situation hasn't changed. The bills are still there. The diagnosis is still what it was. The person still hasn't come back. And yet, somehow, you feel a stillness you cannot explain. That peace is not denial. That peace is the first sign that I have begun to move inside the very thing you thought I had ignored. I often start on the inside, in your heart, before I ever touch the circumstances on the outside. Because if I changed your circumstances before I changed your heart, the new circumstances would just become a new place to be afraid. So I begin where the real battle is. I begin in you. And sometimes a breakthrough looks like a desire returning that you thought had died. A flicker of wanting to try again. A small, almost embarrassing flutter of hope about a thing you had buried. You might be tempted to crush it, to tell yourself not to be foolish. But, my child, do not despise that flutter. I am often the one who put it there. When a dream you laid down begins to stir again on its own, that is not your imagination playing tricks on a tired heart. That is sometimes me, breathing on an ember I never let go fully cold. And sometimes, my beloved child, sometimes a breakthrough looks like exactly this. Like the very words you are listening to in this moment. Because I do not always speak from the sky in a voice that shakes the ground. Sometimes I speak through a message, through a voice, through a quiet moment that finds you precisely when you needed it most and says the one thing your soul has been starving to hear. You thought you stumbled onto this. You didn't. I sent it. This is not the noise. This is the whisper. And the whisper is where I have always lived. Let me remember one more life to you, because I want you to understand how little I require from you in order to move. There was a woman who had been sick for 12 years. 12 years of bleeding that would not stop. 12 years of being called unclean, of being kept at a distance, of doctors who took her money and gave her nothing, of watching hope drain out of her a little more with every failed cure. By the time she heard I was passing through her town, she had almost nothing left. No status, no money, no reputation, and barely any faith, just a flicker, just a thread. And on the day she came near to me, she did not stand up in the middle of the crowd and shout a bold confession. She did not announce herself. She did not make a perfect declaration of unshakable faith. She was too ashamed for that, too worn down, too afraid. So she did the only thing her trembling heart could manage. She got low. She pushed through the crowd, and she reached out with shaking hands, terrified, certain she would be turned away, and she just barely touched the edge of my garment, the hem, the very bottom, the least and lowest part of me she could reach. And that was enough. That small, terrified, barely holding on reach was enough to release healing power into a body that had been broken for 12 years. Because here is something I want you to write across your heart. My child, I do not measure the size of your faith. I honor the direction of it. She did not have great faith. She had real faith. And real faith, even when it is weak, even when it is shaking, even when it can barely lift its hand, real faith always moves me. So hear me. Your reaching does not have to be impressive. It does not have to be eloquent or strong or certain. It only has to be real. Even if your hands are shaking, even if you have reached out before and felt nothing and pulled your hand back in disappointment, even if you are reaching with the very last of what you have, reach again. Reach one more time, because I am closer to you in this moment than I have ever been, and the hem of my garment is already within your grasp. And notice this, my beloved child. After healing flowed into her, I did not let her slip away in the crowd, healed but unseen. I stopped. In the middle of a pressing crowd, with somewhere to be, I stopped everything and I turned and I looked for her, because I would not let her leave thinking she had stolen her healing in secret. I wanted her to know that I saw her. I wanted to call her daughter to her face. I wanted her to walk away not only healed in her body but restored in her dignity, knowing that she was not invisible to me, that she had never been invisible to me, not in 12 years of suffering, not for a single day of it. And I want the same for you. When your healing comes, I will not let it come anonymously. I will make sure you know that it was me, and that I saw you the whole time, and that you were never as alone in your suffering as you believed. Your breakthrough is not stuck. It is not lost. It did not get reassigned to someone more deserving. It is not waiting for you to finally become a better, holier, more disciplined version of yourself. It is moving right now, in this very season, and the only question left is whether your heart will be open enough to receive it when it arrives. Now I want to talk to you about something that happens very quietly. So quietly that most people who do it never even realize they're doing it. And, my beloved child, I think you may be doing it right now. It is the habit of protecting yourself from hope. And I want you to know that I understand exactly why you developed it. I am not going to pretend this came from nowhere. When you have hoped and been crushed enough times, hope itself starts to feel dangerous. It starts to feel like the thing that keeps hurting you. So your heart, in its wisdom, in its desperate effort to keep you safe, learns to stop before it ever starts. It learns to kill the hope early, before the hope can grow large enough to break you when it falls. So now, when something good appears on your horizon, You hear the old voices rise up. You tell yourself, I won't let myself get excited about this. You tell yourself, I've been here before, and I know how it ends. You tell yourself, it probably won't work out, so why set myself up? And you call that wisdom. You wear it like armor and you call it being realistic, being mature, being smart enough not to get fooled again. But my child, I have to tell you the truth in love, the way only someone who loves you can. Sometimes that is not wisdom at all. Sometimes it is fear, wearing the mask of wisdom, and the two can look almost identical from the inside. So let me help you tell them apart. True wisdom says, I will walk carefully. Fear says, I will not walk at all. True wisdom says, I will hold this gift with open hands, ready to receive it and ready to release it. Fear says, I will not hold this at all, because if I never pick it up, it can never be taken from me. Do you hear the difference? Wisdom protects you while still letting you move forward. Fear protects you by keeping you from ever moving at all. Wisdom keeps the door open just enough to let me through. Fear bolts the door shut so that nothing, not even your breakthrough, not even me, can get in. And I am not asking you to be reckless. I would never ask that. I am not telling you to throw away discernment or to leap blindly into anything that glitters. I am asking you for one thing, and it is a smaller thing than you fear. I am asking you to be open. Just open. Open enough that when I knock, you can hear it. Open enough that when I send the answer in a form you didn't expect, you don't slam the door before you recognize my face. Because here is what fear will not tell you, my child. Fear presents itself as protection, but it never actually keeps you safe. It only keeps you small. The disappointment you are trying so hard to avoid by refusing to hope, fear cannot actually protect you from it. It simply trades one pain for another. It trades the sharp, clean ache of a hope that didn't work out for the dull, slow ache of a life that never let itself try. And the second ache is worse, because the first one at least means you were alive enough to want something. Fear convinces you that the safest life is the one where you risk nothing. But the life where you risk nothing is not safe. It is just slowly, quietly, comfortably lost. I did not breathe my life into you so that you could spend it bracing for impact. Let me remember one more night to you. A night on a stormy sea. There were men in a boat, fighting the wind, terrified. And they saw a figure coming toward them across the water in the dark. And one of them, a man named Peter, impulsive and bold and afraid like all the rest, called out and asked if he could come to me. And I told him to come. So he did the impossible. He swung his legs over the side of that boat, in the middle of a storm, with the waves heaving beneath him, and he stepped out, and he walked. On the water, toward me. Yes, the moment came when he took his eyes off me and looked at the waves, and fear rushed in, and he began to sink. I know that part of the story is the one people remember, but here is what I want you to notice instead. Of every man in that boat that night, Peter was the only one who walked on water. Every other man stayed dry. Every other man stayed safe. And every other man stayed inside the boat. They never sank, because they never stepped. They were never afraid in the water, because they never left the wood. My beloved child, safe is not always the same as chosen. Sometimes the most faithful thing you can possibly do is to step out trembling, to take the risk of hope, to climb over the side of the boat that has kept you dry but also kept you stuck, and to trust me with your weight even while you're shaking. The ones who stay in the boat never sink, but they never walk on water either. They never get to feel. My hand catch them the moment they begin to fall, and I will catch you. I caught Peter. The very second he started to go under, my hand was already there. And do not miss this, my child. I did not scold him for sinking. I did not say, "Why did you bother getting out of the boat if you were only going to be afraid?" I reached out. I took hold of him, and I said something tender even in the correction. I asked him only why he doubted, with a love that was already lifting him back up out of the water, because the doubt was never the thing that disqualified him. The doubt came after the courage. He doubted only because he had first dared. The men who never doubted on the water that night are the men who never walked on it. So if you have stepped out and then felt yourself sinking, do not despise yourself for the sinking. You are still the one who stepped out, and my hand is still reaching for you. exactly as it reached for him. So I am asking you gently, lovingly, the way a parent asks a frightened child, do not close the door before I have had the chance to walk through it. Do not let fear make this decision for you. Fear has made too many of your decisions already, and you have the scars to show for it. Because the thing I am sending you, if you reject it out of self-protection, if you push it away simply because the last thing hurt, you may not encounter it again in this season. Not because I am punishing you, but because some windows open only once at a time, and I do not want you to miss this one with your eyes closed. I am not saying this to frighten you back into hope, because fear is no foundation for faith, and I will not build on it. I am saying it because I love you, and because there is a difference between the things that come around again and the things that come around now. Some of what I bring you is patient, and will wait. But some of what I bring you is timed, appointed for a particular moment, woven into a particular season, meant to meet you at a particular crossroads where the road forks, and only one of the two paths leads where your heart has always longed to go. I do not want you to be standing at that fork with your arms crossed and your door bolted, so guarded against being hurt that you cannot recognize the very hand reaching out to lead you home. Soften, my child, just a little. Just enough. Let what I am sending find a heart that is willing to receive it. My beloved child, come close now. I want to slow everything down. I want to say something to you, and I do not want to say it as a teaching, or a lesson, or a point in a message. I want to say it as a declaration, spoken directly over your life. So receive these words not as information, but as something I am placing on you, like a hand on your head. The waiting was not wasted. Every single day you held on when you wanted to let go, I saw it. Not one of those days was invisible to me. Not one of them was forgotten. You thought no one noticed how hard it was just to keep going. I noticed. I noticed all of it. The tears you cried alone, in the car, in the shower, in the dark where you thought no one could see. I collected every one of them. Not a single tear fell to the ground unnoticed. I keep them. They matter to me more than you will understand on this side of eternity. Your sorrow was never private. It was witnessed. It was held. It was honored. The prayers that felt like they went nowhere. The ones that seemed to dissolve into the ceiling and disappear. My child, they did not go nowhere. They went to me. Every one. I heard them before the words were even fully formed in your mind. The prayers you gave up on halfway through. The prayers that came out as nothing more than a groan. The prayers you were too tired to finish. I received all of them. None of them were lost. And the version of you that exists right now, tired, uncertain, scarred, doubting, still carrying questions you don't have answers to, and yet still standing, that version of you, my child, is the one I am most proud of. Not the version that has it all figured out. Not some future, polished, perfect version of you that you keep thinking you have to become before you are worthy of my attention. This one, the one listening right now, the one who got out of bed again, the one who kept showing up to a life that has not been easy. I am proud of you. I want you to let that sentence reach the place inside you that has been starving to hear it. I am proud of you. Hear a few more things spoken over you now, slowly, one at a time, and let each one land before you reach for the next. You are not too broken to be used. The cracks you are most ashamed of are the very places my light will pour out of you to reach others one day. You are not too far behind. There is no race. There never was. The only timeline that has ever mattered is mine, and on mine, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. You are not unlovable, not in your worst moment, not in your weakest hour, not on the day you were most certain you had finally exhausted. My patience, there is no bottom to my love for you. You have never once reached it, and you never will. And now, my beloved child, I am moving. Something is shifting in the unseen places, the places beneath the surface of your circumstances where the real work always happens first. Something is being unlocked that has been bound for a long time. Something with your name on it, something held in reserve, something I have been keeping for you, is being released in this very season. You cannot see it yet, but the absence of sight is not the absence of motion. It is moving even now while you listen. So here is what I am asking of you. Stay open, stay soft, Do not let what hurt you in the past harden your heart against what I am bringing you now. I know the difference between the thing that wounded you and the thing I am sending to heal you, even when they arrive looking similar, even when your fear cannot tell them apart. Trust that I know the difference. I am asking you to trust that I can tell, even when you can't. You do not need to understand everything. You were never required to. You do not need every answer before you take the next step. You only need to be willing to receive, that is all. Just willing. Open hands and a soft heart. That is the whole of what I am asking. My beloved child, you came here today carrying something. Maybe you couldn't even have named it if I asked you to. Maybe you just felt heavy and tired and a little hollow, and you didn't know why. But I knew. I always knew. I brought you here to these words at this hour for a reason that was never an accident. And before you go back into your day, I want to make sure you carry the right things with you instead of the old ones. So hear me say it plainly, slowly, one truth at a time, so that none of it slips past you. You are not forgotten. The silence was never absence, and the wait was never neglect. You are not behind. You have not missed your moment, and you are not running out of time, because my timing was never the clock you have been watching. You are not disqualified. The things you have done, the things that were done to you, the failures you replay at night, none of them have removed your name from what I have prepared. And you are not too late. You could never be too late, because I built the road to arrive exactly when you do. Your breakthrough is already on the way. It is already moving toward you. So when it comes, and it will come, do not reject it because it shows up in a form you didn't expect. Do not turn it away because it doesn't match the picture you drew in your mind. Do not close the door before I have had the chance to step through it. Keep the door open, my child. Just a crack is enough. I want you to leave this place lighter than you came, so set it down. Set down the belief that you missed your chance. Set down the story you have been telling yourself about why you are the exception, the one I overlooked, the one whose prayers got lost. That story was never true. You picked it up in a hard season, and you have been carrying it so long that it started to feel like part of you. But it is not part of you. It is a weight you were never meant to bear, and you can lay it down right here, right now, in front of me and walk away without it. I will not pick it up again on your behalf. I would rather carry you than that lie. Because something in you shifted today. I felt it. Maybe it was only slight. Maybe it was just the smallest loosening of something that had been clenched tight for years. Maybe it was only a hairline crack of light where before there had been none at all. But that is all I need. I only need a crack. Because I am light, my beloved child. And light does not require a wide opening to fill an entire room. Give me the smallest opening and I will flood the whole house. So let me ask you to do something now. Not for me, but as a way of marking this moment in your own life, so that you don't let it dissolve the way good moments tend to dissolve. If this message reached a real place in your heart today, if there is something you have been quietly holding, something you have been afraid to believe for again, something that surfaced when I asked you to name it earlier, I want you to put it into words. Go down to the comments below this message and tell me. Tell this community of others who are reaching out with trembling hands just like you. Write what it is you are still waiting for, still holding on to, still hoping for, even when hope has cost you. There is power in saying it out loud. There is power in refusing to keep it buried. And if all you can manage is a single word, then write the word Amen, and let it be your way of saying, I am keeping the door open. I am willing to receive. And if you know someone whose hands have been shaking too, someone who has been standing at the wrong door for too long, share this with them. You may be the appointment I send into their life today, the right word at the right moment, the voice that finds them when they needed it most. And if you want to keep walking this road with me, if you want to keep hearing these words in the seasons ahead, then stay close. Subscribe and stay, because your story is not over. And in the next message, I want to speak directly into the very thing you just named. Now go, my beloved child. Go in peace. Not the kind of peace the world hands out. The fragile kind that fades the moment your circumstances change, the moment the bad news comes, or the money runs short, or the loneliness creeps back in. I am giving you my peace, the kind that holds you steady even when nothing around you is still. The kind that does not depend on the storm ending, because it was never built on the storm in the first place. It was built on me, and I do not move. That peace is yours. Not someday. Not when things finally turn around. Right now, in this very moment, while everything is still unfinished, it is yours. So take it with you. Carry it into the hard places, and walk even trembling, even uncertain, even with the door only cracked open, walk in it. And on the days ahead, when the old fear comes knocking again, when the silence stretches and the disappointment whispers its tired lies and you feel yourself reaching for the lock on the door, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you were called here. Remember that you were seen. Remember that the God of all creation stopped on this ordinary day to speak directly into the most private ache of your heart and to tell you that it is not over. Whatever comes, do not let go of that. Hold it the way that woman held the edge of my garment with trembling hands if you must. But hold it, because I am holding you. I have never once let go, and I never will. I see you. I love you. I have not forgotten you, and your breakthrough is already on the way.